Welcome back to another special Unmade podcast. We're doing one of our out of 10 specials where Tim and I go through a whole bunch of things and give them a mark out of 10. We've done it twice before. This is the third time. You looking forward to this, Tim?
Oh, this is great. Very exciting. I like these.
It's especially exciting because Tim is not in his usual office. He's in a very special place with a very special guest.
Hi, my name is Dawn Hein, and I'm just delighted to be on the podcast again.
Excellent. It's Mrs Hein, Auntie Dawn, Tim's mum. You know her by now. We've decided to rope her in for our out of 10 special. Now, Mrs Hein, let me explain what we're going to do. I'm going to list a whole bunch of things. It could be anything. It could be all sorts of crazy stuff. And each of us, all three of us, are going to give it a mark out of 10. 10 out of 10 is the thing you love most in the universe. We've never given anything a 10. It's very hard to get a 10. 0 out of 10 would be something you really, really hate, like stepping in a dog poo or something like that.
Okay.
I have to say, I did, they were doing a few practice questions earlier today, just going through Mum and how this works. There was several 10s. Mum's already...
You can do whatever you like, Mrs Hein. You just follow your heart. You follow your heart and you tell us how you feel.
Okay.
And when you give us a mark, you tell us why you gave it that mark. You can tell us what you think about the thing and a bit of an explanation as well if you like.
Okay.
One of the things I have to keep in mind with this, Mum, is the fact that if you give something a really high score, then when you come to the next thing, you might like it even more and you've got nowhere to go.
Oh,
You know what I mean? So you've got to kind of feel your way into it a little bit. If something's,
right.
You don't just want to be affirming of everything.
To balance it out.
Yeah. Although I do think you walk through life and there are a lot of 10 out of 10s. You're very, very grateful of the world around about you.
Yeah, I enjoy life, so I might have a few 10s out of 10s, yeah.
You might have a few 1 out of 10s as well. There are some things you don't like.
Yeah, there might be something I dread.
Yeah. Are you ready for the first thing for us to all give a mark out of 10 to?
Okay.
All right, the first thing on the list is glazed ginger.
Ooh.
Oh, yeah, you've hit the spot there, haven't you?
Well, I think we're looking at an early 10.
Tim, how about you go? How about you and me go first? Tim, what are you going to give glazed ginger?
I'm not totally sure what glazed ginger is. Like, there's ginger, Mum, but then there's, like, what does glazed mean? Does that mean it's, like, coated in something?
We had glazed ginger at your mum's house one time when I was there.
Really?
You know, it's like glazed fruit.
Oh, yeah, okay. Glazé fruit
Yeah.
or whatever they call it sometimes.
Glazed fruit, yeah.
Right.
So you can have a piece of ginger and it's usually got lots of sugar on it. And
Ah, yes.
Not necessarily a lot of sugar, but syrup. That's sugar melted down in syrup, so it's a fluid. That's why it's so delicious.
Oh, right, okay, yep. I love ginger in like one of those health drinks. You know, you have like fruit drink and then a bit of ginger makes you feel like you're having a bit of medicine, clears the sinuses.
Yep.
I like Mum's famous Dutch ginger cake, which is fantastic. I dislike it in chocolate. And for repeated Christmases, I got chocolate, like, coated ginger.
Yep.
And had to put my foot down. Heading into about the 8th Christmas, didn't I, Mum? But glazé fruit. So I'm going to give it about it. Glazé, I'm not so keen on. I think a 3. 3 out of 10.
Really?
Wow.
I thought you really liked me.
I know you thought I liked it. That's why I had to put my foot down.
I'm going to go higher because although it's not something I would ever buy at the shops or think to have, and it's not something I ever have on my own. In fact, I've only ever had it with you, Mrs Hein. I do love ginger. I do love things that are sweet. So this is a nice combination for me. And if someone was to offer me a piece on a plate, I would have it, but I wouldn't buy it at the shops. So I'm going to give it a 6.5, 6.5.
Is that when you mean it's in the cake I make or separate?
I think you gave me like a separate piece on a cake, like on a plate or something, I think.
Right.
What are you going to give it?
Well, I think I'll give it, in the cake, I'll give it a high. I'll give it an 8 because I'm not really keen on strong ginger with the syrup on its own. I wouldn't.
But that's what we're scoring. That's me too. I love your cake, but on its
you
own.
score
That's
it
the
on
blase.
its own.
Yeah.
It's very, very rich. Yeah, I would give it just on its own with the syrup. Yeah, probably about 4 because it's very rich and I can't eat very rich food.
Oh, okay.
Well, there we go. Well, that's a lovely proportionate score. Well done, Mum.
Yeah. Giving yourself
Yeah.
lots of wiggle room. Are you ready for the next one?
Yes, I am.
Okay. I want a score out of 10 for toothpaste.
Ooh, toothpaste.
Tim, what do you think?
Look, it's very useful. So on the usefulness factor, I would give it 5 out of 5. But on the sort of, entertainment factor, it's pretty low. Although it does leave a nice aftertaste. So, 5 out of 5 for usefulness because without it, you're in real trouble. And I think 3, so 5, 6, 7, 8. So I'm giving it 8.
Wow, 8.
That feels a bit high. Yes. Can I just say we did something new tonight before I came over here. My wife was introducing dog toothpaste to Brooklyn.
Yeah.
And it's like meat flavored toothpaste.
Yes,
And-
I'm familiar with it.
Is that what you use, or you mean like in
No,
terms-
I have had dogs before.
That's what he used for his dog, wasn't he?
Yes, I use meat-flavoured toothpaste.
I would not be surprised. It's quarter pounder flavored. Yeah. Anyway, he was not happy about it, but.
I think toothpaste is great, useful, does a good thing in society. I use it every day. I look forward to using it. It gives me a nice fresh feeling afterwards, but also like invigorating, like little bit of a kickstart to the day and a nice feeling before you go to bed. Mm-hmm. You are right, Tim. Toothpaste is not entertaining, but things don't have to be entertaining. I will give toothpaste a good solid 7.8.
7.8. There we go.
Right.
All right, Mum. You're the one that introduced me to toothpaste.
Well, I love peppermint toothpaste. I find it very necessary because, like you say, it's refreshing for your mouth.
Yeah.
And, of course, I have false teeth, so you
right.
need to really cleanse them.
So, Eva, do you use special toothpaste with false teeth, or do you just use the normal same one that I would use?
No, just use the normal. Just use the normal. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Can you say the brand?
Yeah, of course you can.
Colgate peppermint.
Lovely.
Right.
Can't beat a bit of Colgate.
Yeah.
And what are you going to give toothpaste out of 10?
Well, it's a necessity, isn't it? I mean, you just use it twice a day. So I guess it's under the list of necessities, which is probably, around about 8, I suppose.
8?
Because sometimes when I run out of toothpaste, I think, I really need to put that on my shopping list.
Yeah.
It sounds like if we're sitting around at Christmas, right, and we're looking for something to munch while we're watching television, we're twice as likely to want to go get some toothpaste than we are glacé ginger.
All right. Here's the next one. Are you ready?
Yes.
I want a mark out of 10 for stormy weather. Stormy weather.
Ooh.
Thunderstorms.
It's a beautiful song.
No.
Actual
weather. Stormy
Ooh,
weather.
Okay.
Stormy outside.
No.
Thunder, lightning, rain, wind. Tim?
I love it. Like, this is a 9 out of 10 for me. I'm tempted to give it a 10 out of 10, but I love
What?
stormy weather. Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, it's marvellous. Oh, it's great. I love being awake for it at night.
Yeah, I love stormy weather when I'm inside and looking out the window and you're all snuggled up under a rug. And for that reason I would give it a high score. But you do have to take into account sometimes you're stuck out in stormy weather, and sometimes stormy weather interrupts things you want to do, like playing sport or doing outdoor activities. So you've got to dock some marks for that.
Yeah.
So although I love a good storm and I love nature and the power of it and the drama of it, I am going to dock 2 marks for the interruptions and problems it causes me, and another 1 mark for all the problems it can cause other people, like flooding and accidents and things like that. So I'm going to give stormy weather a 7.
Golly,
A
gosh.
7.
Yep.
Tim, is that why you say to me after we have a storm, did you stand on your balcony and watch the lightning?
Well, you do. You have a great balcony for
Yes,
storms. You
no.
can see.
Great view.
I
Oh.
pull the blind down.
Do you get scared, do you, Mum?
Wow, I had an experience in New Guinea. We had a very bad storm and the lightning struck my little house where I was living.
No way.
Just as well I wasn't in the kitchen because it struck the sink and the taps and ripped all the board behind right over to the other side of the room.
Amazing.
Wow.
So I'm glad I wasn't there because we all went up to the main house on the mission station where it was safe.
Yeah.
I thought I'd heard all the New Guinea stories, but I've actually never heard that
It's
one.
amazing.
Haven't you? Oh, you've just forgotten. You've probably just forgotten.
And has that made you scared of storms ever since?
It was very scary because you see, up in the Southern Highlands, you're very high, Brady.
Yep.
And it's worse
Yeah.
the higher you get.
Yeah.
And, it was really, really scary.
So what are you going to give stormy weather out of 10 then? Not very high, I imagine.
Oh,
Yeah.
no.
Your face is ashen, Mum. You look horrified like
Wow.
you're reliving it now.
Well, you can imagine if I was there and it also struck the motor for the power on the veranda.
Yeah.
So if I'd been on the veranda or in the kitchen, it would have been a lot worse. So stormy weather, I always feel, protect me, Lord.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's way down the bottom.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't mind heavy rain. I don't mind a bit of thunder, but it's the lightning.
Okay.
Right. What's the number? What is it, Mum, out of 10? What's the score?
Probably 2.
Wow.
Surprised.
2.
I'm not
Gosh.
surprised.
It was very scary. It was very scary.
Okay.
Very, very scary.
Sounds like you need to sing about your favourite things.
We may yet come to that.
Raindrops on what is it? Petals and whiskers on kittens. I feel like I need to sing it to you now. Mum, do we need to sing it now? Because you look just to
Raindrops
get you
on
out of this
roses
moment.
and whiskers on kittens.
Roses. Right.
All right.
Yeah, good old
Something
Juliet.
about mittens.
Andrew. Love that film.
What about the letter Q in the alphabet? The letter Q. There are 26 letters in the alphabet. I just want to know what you think of the letter Q.
Well, this is good. You know, I have to say, I like the letter Q.
Yep.
It's quite original. I love the way it goes counterintuitively in the lowercase, off to the right at the bottom, a little flag. I like that. It sort of zags when it should zig, that kind of idea.
Yeah.
I have to say, I think of it a lot because there's a particular service station around South Australia and it's called OTR, On the Run, right?
Yeah.
But the way they've done the O, they've made it look like a clock. So it's kind of like an O, but with a line in it to sort of look like, we're open 24 hours a day kind of thing. But it makes it look like a Q.
Yeah.
And so I forever saying, we need petrol. Where's a QTR? And it's not even their name, but the Q comes up I see Qs where there are not.
Yep.
There are not Qs. I don't miss the Qs. I see them too many
Okay.
Qs. So I like Q. I'm a big fan of Q. I'm going to give Q. I'll give it a 6.8.
6.8.
6.8 out of 10.
Okay.
Yep.
I also love the letter Q. It's quirky, funnily enough, beginning with Q. Yeah, you're right. The capital and the lowercase version both look very different from each other. It's rare, which I like. It scores highly in Scrabble. I think it's a cool letter. It's a character in James Bond movies.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go a bit higher. I'm gonna give Q 7.3. Mrs. Hein.
I think I might go a bit higher, Brady, because I love Q.
Yeah.
And my first thought is Q for the Queen.
Of course. Of course.
Yeah. And I love the Queen. I miss the Queen. Queen Elizabeth. Yeah. I miss her. So, and also I think of Q, the beginning of quench, when you're very thirsty, you have to have something to quench
You're
your
right.
thirst. So that's a good thing.
Lots of good words start with Q.
And the other thing, the fruit, quinces.
Oh, yes.
My mum, we used to have a quince tree, and my mum used to make quince jam. And I love quince jam.
Yeah.
To this day, I just love it,
Brilliant.
Q for me is a positive.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I would give it 8.5, I think.
Ooh.
Good mark. Okay. Next, I want to mark out of 10 for the over-encompassing world of Harry Potter. The Harry Potter universe, the
Oh.
books, the movies, just Harry Potter in general.
Oh.
Tim, you can go first.
Yeah, okay, all right. I'd say so. The Harry Potter. I remember reading the first Harry Potter back at about 20-something years ago. I got into it because I was doing ministry with youth, and sort of better understand this. And I was super impressed with the first book. I thought it was fantastic. I thought, gosh, I got a whole world introduced to me here and a great adventure in a very small book. Second book, good too. I think I read the third one and I got halfway and then they're getting too thick and I'm like, this is getting a bit repetitive. But I have to say, the later ones, even the films have played in the house a fair bit and the girls have read them through dozens of times. I have to say, so I think the first book I'd give like a 9 out of 10. But for the series as a whole, it's amazing. She did think of everything, all the little bits and pieces. So
Do you
it's very
think? I think
clever.
I think she made it up as she went a bit. I don't think it was all as totally planned out.
Oh yeah, no, I didn't mean that. I meant she thought of the names as she went along, and the people and the characters, and even the name Hogwarts is a counterintuitively good name for a prestigious school. Hog and Warts doesn't make sense. It sounds like it should be a steakhouse in Texas, but it actually somehow works. As a castle. So there's all sorts of clever stuff.
Yeah.
As a whole, I guess I have to give it at least a 7.9.
7.9. If they had left it at the books, I do think it went a little bit downhill towards the end, but still solid.
Yeah.
And I love the films. I still watch the films a lot.
Really?
And if it had been left at that, I think I'd be saying something close to 9. I do think it's lost its way a bit now, and they're making all these spin-off stuff, and it's all gotten a bit greedy and silly, a bit like they're damaging the Star Wars brand, in my opinion, a bit. So I'm gonna lop it down a little bit because it's kind of lost a bit of its luster. So I'm gonna give it a 7.2.
Yeah. I have to say, I don't find it emotionally compelling. Maybe because I'm old, but like some books carry me. Like you just feel them when you read them, like Bridge to Terabithia and those sorts of books when I was young. But because I got into it as an adult, I admire it rather than it doesn't pull the heartstrings in the same way. There are moments in it that do, but I don't do it. What about you, Mum?
Well, I know a teenager who loves it. And she shared some of it with me. And no, I would say I disapprove, especially for younger children, because I know a younger child, it frightens. And that concerns me greatly. It's definitely not edifying. And if it's going to put fear into younger children, that concerns me.
Yeah, it that can be scary for the younger ones, definitely.
I really don't know as much as you and Tim about it because I haven't gone into it, but what I hear, I think it's one book that I would not recommend for children at all.
Okay, excellent. So what mark should we give it today then?
Well, probably a naught.
A naught?
Yeah.
Wow.
Have we had a naught before?
Because you know how fond I am of children and how concerned I get
Yeah.
about
'em safe.
children. I've worked with children all my life
Yeah.
and I've seen a lot of frightened children. And so I would say, a naught. I would not at all recommend it.
I want to mark out of 10 for sunflowers.
Ah.
All right, Tim. Tim, how do you feel about sunflowers?
Well, I know a teenage girl who's scared of sunflowers, and I think they can be scary, and I just worry. I mean, I don't know much about it as you two, but I just think the magic, I mean, they must be magic, because look at them. They come up, they explode with colour, they wave around, and they're everywhere. It must be magic, so I don't like it at all.
Oh,
What are you giving sunflowers, Tim?
really?
Well, sunflowers are fantastic. They're wonderful. They're so happy.
Yeah.
Sunflower. Yeah, no. Beautiful. Wonderful.
Just look up there.
What? Look up where, Mum?
Up there.
Up where? Oh.
And you'll find my picture
Oh.
of the sunflower.
Oh, yeah. Actually, no, you're right. They're not. Yeah. No, yeah. That picture's just taken. I was going to say an 8, but I'm going to drop it back to a 7.5. That picture's not really done it justice.
What are you going, Tim? A 7.5?
7.5. I have to say, it's partly because of the overload. Mum had a big sunflower fetish in the kitchen, didn't you, Mum? With the curtains in our place I grew up in.
Yes.
So I feel like I'm kind of done sunflowers. They've lost their mystique for me. So they're back to a 7.5.
I'll tell you where I stand on sunflowers, right? The idea of sunflowers is quite high. They're a very lovely flower. They always look beautiful in paintings and pictures and things like that. And I also like that they're quite mathematical. Famously, the way that seeds in a sunflower are arranged has a lot to do with irrational numbers, Fibonacci, the golden ratio. There's a lot of interesting mathematics to do with sunflowers that I find very interesting. I've made videos about them. So I would start off giving them a very high score. My problem is, when you see sunflowers in real life, in nature, like a field of sunflowers, there are two things about them I don't like. I find them a little bit too big. I want my flowers to be a bit smaller. I find sunflowers just a little bit too big for me. And the other thing is, they always look a bit messier in real life than they do in paintings and photos. There's always a few petals that are like drooping, and they never look as perfect in real life. I always find them a slightly messy looking flower. They're not very perfect, not perfect like a daisy or even a rose or something like that. I always find them a little bit, they can be a bit scraggy sometimes in nature, in a field of sunflowers. So I'm going to take a few points off for that. So I'm going to give sunflowers 6.7.
Oh.
Oh, yeah, there's steam coming out of the ears here, man, as you're talking.
Well, that's what I like about them.
Yeah?
What you don't like about them in nature when they're growing. And my husband used to grow them in our backyard.
Yeah.
And they were very, very tall and beautiful.
Yep.
And what I love in nature about them, which way the sun was shining, they turned their head towards the sun. Did you know that?
Yes, that's a good point. I forgot about that. That is
You
nice.
knew that. Yeah, they turn their head and face the sun. I guess that's why they call them sunflowers. But they're only meant for the garden. You see, this is the thing. Some people pick them and put them in a vase. They're not a really vase flower.
Right.
They're really meant to be enjoyed in the garden. Although, if it's a nice big vase, it's okay. But they do, after a while, they do get a bit straggly because they're not meant to be stuck in a vase for a long time. But in the garden, they're beautiful. And I'm just looking at that picture. And in paintings, that lady painted that. So, you know, they are beautiful. And guess what? I was given a smaller version. I should have brought it with me here tonight. A brooch to go. A special little 18-month-old boy gave it to me as
Oh.
a present.
Did he?
Yeah.
Well, that was very kind of him. I think I know that 18-month-old boy.
You might know that 18 months old.
Oh, I'm
boy.
catching on now. Yes.
Yeah. Lovely. What do you want to give sunflowers out of 10? What's the score out of 10?
Oh, I think 9 out of 10.
Oh, nice. Nice.
Yeah, because they're a garden flower, and in a garden, I would say 9 out of 10, yeah. And the name Sunflower, it's a bright, happy name,
It is.
isn't it?
It's lovely.
Why didn't you call me Sunflower? That would have been a...
You probably didn't look bright and sunny.
I turned my head towards the sun.
Next, I want a mark out of 10 for emus. The Australian birds, emus.
Yeah.
I hate emus. I hate them.
Yep.
I really do. They are scary. They're too big. They're snarly. They look angry. They're fierce. I'm scared of them. They scratch things.
Yep.
The only reason I'm going to give 2 marks to emus is because of the children's books by Barry Chant called the Spindles books that I read when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Which are a little bit like Winnie the Pooh, a young boy who goes off with animals, that he can talk to and stuff. And they are fantastic books. And in there was a couple of great emus.
Hippie.
Hippie was a great emu, yep. And the one who lays down his life to save him. I can't remember the name of the emu.
That's all right.
But he's wonderful. Yeah.
No.
But anyway, so they get 2 marks for them.
Okay. I'm going low with emus too. I also find them unnerving when you see them at wildlife parks and things like that. And they are like a little bit scary and aggressive. But I'm not supposed to be close to emus. And from a distance, they are quite an interesting and spectacular animal. It's really interesting when you see them out in the wild. They're an Australian icon. They're quite exotic. So I'm going to go a little bit higher. I'm going to give emus 4.1.
They're on our national emblem, aren't they?
Yeah, they're on the national crest of
Kangaroo
Australia.
and an emu.
What do you think, Mrs. Hein? What do you want to give emus out of 10?
Yeah, well, watching them on films, and there's only one time when I was very close. We were in a nature park, weren't we?
We were. This was very funny.
And I was not aware of the emu coming up behind me in this park. They were all walking around. And I just turned to the left, and here's this face of this emu, which scared me so much. So
that was so funny. I saw that moment, and it's Mum turning, looking, and the emu looking, and they're both looking at each other close up at sort of the same height, and then they both turn to look at me at the same time. It's just fantastic, and Mum's eyes were so wide.
I've heard Tim tell that story so many times, I feel like I have that memory.
Mum's eyes were sunflowers. That's for sure.
What do you want to give them out of 10?
So, well, they are very famous for Australia, aren't they? I find their eggs quite large and fascinating.
The eggs are interesting.
Some people collect them, don't they?
Yeah.
Probably, while they stay out in the wilderness, that's fine. I suppose 5, but they're not meant to be up close,
No.
All right.
Like if an emu moved into your apartment building, would you?
No.
Right.
No, I
You
would
wouldn't
not
be like a
approve
good
of
neighbour.
that. No.
Okay.
Not at all.
What about a mark out of 10 for the story of Anne of Green Gables?
Ah.
I think Mum's going to have to go first on this one.
10 out of 10.
Oh,
Whoa.
wow. She's dropped a 10 bomb.
Yes.
10 out of 10.
Yes.
Love it.
Yes.
Oh.
Do you
Why?
remember, Brady? My house was called Gables at home.
Green Gables, I do remember
From
that.
that-
And that's because you loved the book, is it? When did you read the book? Was
Yeah.
that when you were a girl?
Yes, young girl, and I've read it so many times since I've grown up
Yep.
and seen the film. Yes, I love it.
Brilliant. Tim?
I have a vague notion of what Anne of Green Gables is, and when I was a little kid, I remember my friend, she loved it, and it was sort of the thing that, while I was watching Knight Rider, that was the thing that she liked, and I liked her, so that's kind of a connection. My kids love it as well. when they were little, but I think she's a school. I literally not. It's like she's a school teacher, but she's out in the wilderness somewhere. Is that right? Like
She becomes a school teacher later, but the core of the story, she's a girl. She's at school.
Right. Okay.
She's adopted, isn't she? Is she an orphan? Or she's an orphan, isn't she? Or she's adopted?
Yes, she's an orphan.
Yeah.
Is it like a British thing or an American thing? Like, is she out in the prairie somewhere?
No, British.
Is it British? Is it? It was written by a Canadian, wasn't it?
Was it? Canadian.
Mm.
Oh,
Wow.
there you go.
Tim?
Oh, for the joy it's given my childhood friend and for my children and clearly for my mum, it's... I'll give it a 5.
All right.
But for my own personal enjoyment, I have no reference point. Apart from that, it seems wholesome. I like things that are wholesome. So.
Yes.
I'm a fan. Anne of Green Gables has red hair, and that's a big part of the story.
Oh.
So Anne of Green Gables looms very large for girls with red hair, I believe. And my sister was one of those. My sister has very long red hair.
That's right, she does.
So she really engaged with Anne of Green Gables. So as a result, we would watch the TV sort of mini-series that was made. I assume it was made in the 80s or something, like the iconic Anne of Green Gables show. So I watched it many, many times, and I know it very well. Puff sleeves and getting stranded in the river. And Gilbert Blythe, was that the name of the boy that her boyfriend? Or
Gilbert, yeah.
Yeah. So Anne of Green Gables is very familiar to me. I liked it very much. My sister loved it. So for that reason, nostalgia, and for the part it played in my childhood, just because I had to watch it so many times, I'm going to give it 7.
Well, upgrade me to a 6. I feel more appreciative too.
Oh, okay. Tim's upgrading.
Yes.
It's quite a high score now for Anne of Green Gables.
Well, if you're bringing nostalgic into it,
No, you can't go higher than a 10.
my granddaughters and I watched it, you'll hear one of them say, Nan, many, many, many times.
Right.
All right. Next, I want to mark out of 10 for carrots.
Carrots. I'm pretty indifferent to carrots. They're handy. You can hold them, eat them. Useful, but I'll give it a 5.
5.
I had some carrots this week and I was like, meh, I think I'm done with carrots for the rest of the week.
Yeah, I think carrots are a middle of the road vegetable. I like them with a bit of honey glaze on them, maybe to sweeten them up, or in a carrot cake. But generally, I'm generally not the world's biggest vegetable fan anyway. I'm going to give carrots. They are convenient.
I like they have their own colour. I like that they're kind of unique like that.
Yeah, they add some interesting look to a dish. For that, I'll give them a 5 as well, I think.
What about you, Mum?
Yeah, I love carrots because you can do so much with them. You can eat them raw, you can cook them, bake them.
Yeah.
And carrot cakes. I made a lot of carrot cakes. And so, yeah, it's a very useful vegetable. I think when I was younger, I remember I didn't like them. Perhaps it was my mother's cooking. And she used to say...
So it's her fault that you didn't like them.
She used to say, Dawny, eat up your carrots because they make your hair curl. Well, it never happened to me. I'm still getting perms. So my hair didn't go curly. Yeah. But we had to eat them.
Okay.
Yes, we had to. Because they're good for you.
Yeah. Out of 10?
Oh, yeah, out of 10. Oh, I suppose about a 5, an average vegetable.
Straight 5s.
I forgot about the baked carrots are lovely, aren't they?
Yeah, they're nice. They're probably the best way to cook them.
All right. I want to mark out of 10 for the Bible story of Noah's Ark.
Wow.
The Noah's Ark Bible story.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever preached a story about Noah's Ark. Maybe once. I've maybe alluded to it or used it in a sermon about other things, but I don't know if I've actually preached on it. It's kind of, rainbows are everywhere now as a symbol of things being saved and included.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about the rainbow link.
But the rainbow's a sign from God that he won't destroy the world again, that he saves 2 by 2. So, there's all sorts of symbolism that flows out of the story.
Oh, yeah.
Might go back to it again, but I don't... what do I think of the story? It's an interesting... It's not one of my favourites, right? It's not like one there's a kid that I read over and over and over again. I'll give it a 7. Maybe, no, 6.8 is where I feel it, but it might increase with further reading. Yes.
I'm going high for Noah's Ark because I think this is one of my favourite Bible stories because it's really like original and different. It's quite different to all the other Bible stories because it's next level craziness what's going on. I mean, all the animals in the world, rounding them up, putting them into pairs, putting them all on the same boat, the whole world getting flooded. Like, this is high drama. And this is on a scale that most Bible stories don't go to. Most Bible stories are quite small, aren't they? They're like very personal. They might involve miraculous things or great deeds, but they're always quite small scale. But this is like global. It's like, it's huge. And it's like so incredible to think of. I like that it involves all the animals that we relate to now. I like that it has some links with modern times where people have gone a bit crazy and tried to find the Ark. I like that it involves a mountain. I love mountains, and the Ark came to rest on a mountain and stuff. So this ticks a lot of boxes for me, the Noah's Ark story. I think it's like it's one that really captured me as a kid, and I still think it's a cool story. So I'm going to give the Noah's Ark story 7.8. No, 7.9. What about you, Auntie Dawn? You must have told the Noah's Ark story lots of time in Sunday school.
Yes, I have, and I love it. And the children is one of their favourite, and I love it too. You know, all the animals. I love animals, but I love the story, and I love the meaning you can get out of it. In my office, I'm just thinking. In my office, when I was chaplain at the school, I had a model ark, and the children used to love it. We had the animals, and the children used to put them in it, and yeah, children love Noah's Ark.
Yeah.
I've told it many times. I'll probably give it a 9. It's one of
a 9. Yeah.
One of children's favourite, I think, and mine too. Yeah.
I also love that it's one of the few Bible stories where we get like dimensions, like there are numbers. They tell us how big it was and stuff like that. Like it's
yeah, that's right.
It really tickles the Brady brain.
Yes, it was. All right. Yeah, enormous. Yeah.
I would like a mark out of 10 for horses.
Oh,
the animals.
Well,
Tim, do you like horses, Tim?
I love horses. I was just thinking about horses the other day. I was thinking about how much I like them and how strongly they work as a feature in a song. So I was listening to a song actually by Nick Cave called Bright Horses, and I was thinking just even calling it that makes it sound like a great song.
Yeah.
The word, something about the word horses and what it evokes. These beautiful animals, they are my favourite animal.
Oh.
Why would you take anything off?
I'll tell you, I'll give you a reason to take marks off horses. They're big and scary, and they do massive poos on the road.
They do massive poos. Yes, they do. That's right. But that doesn't mind. Horse manure is the most pleasant of the manures. Much better than cow manure or chook manure.
The most pleasant of the manures.
It is the most pleasant of the manures. Yes, yes, it's great. Yeah. I'm going to go 9. I think I'm going to take one off because I don't have one. Oh, they're expensive to keep.
Yes.
The adjustment and all that stuff is expensive. So they're not as handy as getting a puppy.
Okay.
So I'll take one off for that. But that feels like wrong because I'm blaming them because, it's not, viable for me to have one. But I love horses.
I'm not going to go as high as that. I think horses are magnificent animals when they're perfect, like when they're like, when they've got a beautiful coat and everything and that. And I like a big Clydesdale too. They're mighty animals. They're magnificent animals. They're great utility animals. They have served us well. I do find them a little bit intimidating to get when I have to get on one or if I'm standing near one. They do have a presence that, and they can be a little bit unpredictable. They do big poos, and I just haven't had that much to do with them because I'm a city boy. So I can't have the affection for them that a country girl might have for them. And for that reason, I'm going to give horses 7.5.
We haven't got time to do you now, Mum, so we'll just move on to the next one if that's okay.
My favourite animal, horses. I grew up with them on the farm. riding a dear old Billy when I was little. And then when
Billy.
I got older, on to Trixie.
Yeah.
And I love horses. And when you're on riding round the paddock, that you just know that they understand you, and, you know, you can look into a horse's eye and you just know that they love you and they understand. They're just beautiful.
Yeah.
And they've never ever bucked me off or anything. They've always just been, yeah, I love horses. Even now I'll watch things on the television because of the horses. One of my granddaughters teases me, you know, when I say about I've been watching a very beautiful, exciting movie, and they'll say, oh, was there horses in it, Nan?
Yeah.
Because I love the horse films.
If only there were more horses in Harry Potter. What are you going to give horses out of 10?
Well, I think they're probably my favourite animal, so I think I'll give them 10 because of the favourite and the experience I've had with them.
When did you last ride a horse?
When was your birthday?
Oh, yeah, about 3 or 4 years ago.
We went up
we went horse riding, yeah.
in the hills,
Yeah.
and I got on and rode, yeah.
Nice.
Well, you kind of rode.
Well, I rode round an indoor paddock
That's
for
right.
a while.
That was
But
one of the funny. We're all outside with our horses, and all we can hear is the conversation happening from back inside the barn with between Mum and the horse, and the person trying to reassure Mum that she's not going to fall off the horse. That was very funny.
Well, she helped me on, and when I got on, it was all right. But it was getting off, Brady.
Yeah.
They would not allow a box or anything to get off.
Right.
And
It's a long way down.
Yeah, that was not nice. And they said to me, and I was quite old then. How old was I, Tim? I mean,
Oh, you would have been like 80 maybe or 79. Yeah.
probably my 70s. And I was saying, you have to put a box there for me to get off, because getting on's easier than getting off. And I said, no, we don't. We're not permitted to do that. You've got to either slide off the back
Right.
or throw your leg over its head.
Oh. No.
True.
I can't believe we did this actually.
And Tim, they were all, you know, out riding.
Gosh.
And I'm there with this person. And I said, no, I've got a bad back. And then my back was really bad, wasn't it? I mean, and I said, no, you're kidding me. And she said, no, I'll stay here and wait till you, and I thought, well, I've got no other choice.
Yeah.
So what do you think I did?
Slid off the back.
You went, whoa, fella.
Threw my leg over its head and
You
jumped
did
down.
not.
I did.
Oh.
I
That's
did,
incredible.
Brady.
Tim, are there any photos of this?
I wasn't going to slide
Yes.
off the back because I thought it might kick me.
Yeah.
So,
Couldn't you just sort of fall sideways and they catch you?
what do you mean?
Like just sort of like fall to the right, just like tip over to the right, and then like as if you were falling off sideways, and then someone would sort of grab you as you came off.
Well, one lady was holding the reins at the front, and I thought, well, I'm not going backwards. I want to see where I'm going. And so I threw my right leg over its head and slid down to the ground. And I had a very bad back at that time. I went
dear.
flat on my feet.
I want a mark out of 10 for the month of July.
July.
July. Tim, do you like July?
Yeah, well, July, you know, it's kind of the middle of the year, and we tend to go to a little holiday, or for a little holiday to the snow with some friends, and I enjoy that very much. So I like July. It's a nice break in the year. It's the middle of winter here in Australia, but I like July. I'm going to give July a 7. 7 out of 10.
I don't like July so much. I see, because a lot of loads of people in my family, including myself and my wife and loads of other people, all have their birthdays in June. So I feel like by the time July comes around, all the birthdays and the things you've been looking forward to have all finished. And then you're thinking, oh, it's so long now until Christmas and things. So I think July would be quite low ranking for me, except my favourite ever thing that happened in history happened in July, and that was the first landing on the moon in 1969. That happened in July. And for that reason, I have to give July some extra points. So I'm going to give July 5.2. What about you, Auntie Dawn?
Well, I like July because my birthday's in July.
No. Oh.
Yes.
Didn't know that.
So I like July.
Yeah.
And something very special happened in July. July 69, when the man was landing on the moon, I was flying to New Guinea.
Oh.
I was in the plane when he was
Really?
off to the moon.
You were closer to him than most then.
Yeah, I like July.
Yeah.
It was great.
So what's July going to get?
I think, 8.5. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. Good mark. What about a mark out of 10 for handkerchiefs?
Handkerchiefs.
Handkerchiefs.
Wow.
Old-fashioned, no
Handkerchiefs.
tissues, old-fashioned hankies.
Hankies.
Oh,
Hankies, you know, yeah. I like the idea of hankies more than the use of them. So I love the idea that they're nice and people might have their initials embroidered into the corner and they might be meaningful. It feels wholesome and the sort of thing I'd associate with you, Mum, and Mary Poppins and Julie Andrews, you know, that kind of nice thing. I feel like a dignified person will have a hanky on them. Having said that, it's not the most hygienic way to go about it, is it? Like a tissue that you throw away is more hygienic. But there is something about a hanky that feels old-fashioned, and I like stuffing it in the top pocket of my suit jacket or something like that, sports jacket. Yeah. So, yeah, hanky, yeah. I'm saying all this, and whatever score I give it, I don't actually own a hanky.
Right.
No, the eyebrows went up here on Mum like you wouldn't believe. Like, absolute horror. So, but
what are you going to give it?
I'll go 6. 6 for... No, 5.9. Let's go.
5.9.
6 felt wrong.
I'm the same. Like, I like the design options and the ability to express oneself in a fashionable way. They can be quite stylish and that. But if used to blow your nose, that's not cool. That seems a bit yucky to me. And then putting it back in your pocket and so I don't know. They just seem. I don't know, but I like the idea of having one maybe like to polish your glasses or something, or to like just so you've got a handy little piece of cloth and stuff. So I don't know. I feel like they're from another time, and I like things from other times, but I find it hard to get too fired up about them. I'm going to go 5.5. I
feel like there's something you should carry around in case someone else needs one. I feel like offering someone a hanky is like. You know what I mean? A wonderful, an act of
chivalry.
Chivalry, that's right.
If they're crying or something.
That's right,
Yeah, you offer them a hanky.
What about you, Auntie Dawn?
Oh, I love hankies. I buy a lot of hankies. If I'm at a fete or a store or somewhere, I'll buy pretty hankies. Yeah, I've got a drawer full, but I still, I love them. And I try and find a lot of old-fashioned hankies because I'm very nostalgic, but I do like pretty hankies and I carry them in my bag all the time. I give them as gifts.
Not to Tim, obviously.
To friends, ladies.
No.
Yeah. And so I love hankies. Yeah, 10 out of 10.
What?
10 out of 10?
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah,
right.
really I've got a drawer full.
Wow.
When I see them,
it's a fetish.
I just buy them.
A drawer full of hankies.
Yeah, I've got a lot of hankies.
I want a mark out of 10 for electricity.
Electricity. I have to say, like, there's no end to the benefits of electricity.
No.
Oh, well, except when it comes to the environmental damage by generating it. That's one. So that's an end that the whole world's reckoning with at the moment. Yeah, I don't quite understand electricity. You'll be surprised to hear. Like, I'm going down. Mum, you go first. I feel like I need to think about this a little bit more.
Oh, well, I really appreciate electricity because I grew up as a child without electricity.
Really?
We had candles, and we had lamps.
What sort of fridge? What sort of fridge did you have then?
We had an ice chest. We didn't have a fridge. We couldn't have a fridge. We had an ice chest.
How did you charge your phone if you didn't have electricity?
We didn't have phones. We didn't have phones when I was little.
Oh.
We had a big phone on the wall up the passage
Yeah.
that you wound the handle and got the exchange and they got the number for you. No, we
Yeah.
didn't have phones and we didn't have electricity.
So you couldn't listen to podcasts?
We listened on the radio. I
Right.
used to be a lover of the radio.
How did you listen to the radio if you didn't have electricity?
No, batteries.
Ah.
Radio was batteries and...
But isn't battery just
What
stored
were those other
electricity? Like
things? What were those other things in a radio? That was sort of
wires?
not batteries. It was just sort of I don't understand it all. We had portable radios.
Do you remember the first time you ever saw television?
Oh yes,
Yeah?
yes. My father didn't want it, so my brother Bruce went out and bought one. It was black and white, no colour, and went out and bought one. And we all sat around watching. It was amazing. Yeah, the first time we got a black and white television.
What did you watch? What was the first thing you watched?
Oh, I can't remember. But I know that my father, it was so interesting. He didn't want television and yet he used to watch a lot because he used to watch the horse racing.
Yeah.
And, you know, he was the one that didn't want it and yet he used to watch most of it. So I think some children's programs came on the ABC.
What are we going to give it out of 10?
Electricity.
Yep.
Well, electricity, I find it so handy. You know, you just plug it in and
Yeah.
and when the power goes off, you really miss
yeah.
it, don't you? So there's lots of benefits of it. And because I grew up without it, I have a high appreciation of
Yeah.
electricity.
You going to give it a score?
Yeah, well, I suppose, you know, at least an 8.5.
8.5.
I am going to be more of a Luddite because I grew up with electricity and I therefore take it for granted and am nostalgic for things, not nostalgic, but idealistic about things that aren't electrical. So I'm going to go for a 4.5, which is a bit ridiculous.
I'm going to go quite low too, you know, because obviously electricity is massively important, like air, like, you know, and I wouldn't want to be without air and I wouldn't want to be without electricity. So don't get me wrong, electricity, I appreciate you. You're pretty important to my work as well. Other than the fact it's important, I do take it for granted. And other than that, the only real thoughts I have about electricity is that it's like dangerous. Like, oh, you know, it could electrocute me or it could electrocute my baby or so I don't know. I'm going to give electricity
that's
just
true.
like, I don't know. I do take it for granted. I'm going to give it a 5. Oh, there are lots of shapes. There are circles. There are squares in the world. There are rectangles. There are pentagons. But I want to score out of 10 for triangles. How do you feel about triangles?
Look, I have to say, I don't feel as close to triangles as I do squares.
Really?
And I think it all comes back from the fact that when I was a kid and we had a dress up or book week, I think it was at school, Mum, you remember I went as Mr. Strong from the Mr. Men comics, and he's square, isn't he? So I remember wearing this big square costume, and so it always felt like me. We had the photo up somewhere of me in this square box, right? Basically just a cardboard box with my legs and arms and head
That's
coming
right.
out. So I sort of feel like it's kind of part of my identity now, this square box, because I've seen this thing with me all the way along, and so I like squares more. But we're not scoring squares; we're scoring triangles. So I have to say, I feel like even though there's something a bit like Q, there's something angular and different about triangles. I also get a bit lost in them as well, about the names of the different ones and what they add up to.
Yeah.
And
Scalene, isosceles, all these things.
use it. I feel like triangles require more brain power, and squares, you know, just make a bit more sense. So 3.7 for triangles.
See, 3, I thought you were going to be really clever and give them a 3, but anyway.
Oh,
3 point,
yes.
yeah. 3.7. What about you, Annie Dawn? Do you like triangles?
Well, I've been thinking while Tim's talking, and I thought, well, yeah, I do, for the simple reason when we make craft with children, we do a three triangles, and that makes the star. So I really like triangles because, you put either 3 or 4 down and it makes the star. So I guess, yeah, they're handy in craft.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Score?
Oh, I suppose. Well, I've done a lot of those, so probably. And yet I like squares. I sort of feel comfortable with squares. You cut out a square in craft, cards and all. So, yeah, I suppose. 6, I suppose. Yeah.
I like how Mrs. Hine's really good and always, tells us what she thinks about the topic, but always kind of doesn't want to do the score. It's like she resents giving it a score at the end. She was like, I'll say this, I'll say that, and I'll say that, and then I'll say, and what's the score? And you're like, no, I don't know, I guess I could give it a score then. You don't like the scoring part, do you?
No, I don't, because, scoring is put a seal on it, and I don't like putting seal on things.
Interesting. That's true. It's like, it's very final, isn't it?
It's sort
very
of
judgy.
A final closure.
Very judgmental.
Closure. It's a closure, and I don't like doing that.
Oh, you chose the wrong episode for you to be a guest in. I'm going to give triangles a good solid 7.5. Because I've made lots of videos about them. There's lots of good maths and lots of good interesting stuff you can do with triangles. I think, you think of them as a craft object. I think of them as a mathematical object. And I enjoy the mathematics of triangles.
Oh, right. Yeah.
They're the most simple shape, with the straight lines. And you can do some cool stuff. I've had some good fun with triangles. Some good videos. So, yeah, I'm going to give them a 7.5. What are we going to give out of 10 The Sound of Music, the movie with Julie Andrews?
There are a lot of movies. And there are some good movies, and there are movies you want to see again, but there are very few movies that you will see multiple times more. I just know without a doubt that I'll watch it again. It features one of my favourite scenes, and which I probably should tell you what it is. I love it when he says, she says, when they're getting together right at the end in the gazebo, and she says, well, the Reverend Mother says that, when God shuts a door, he opens a window. Von Trapp turns around and says, what else does the Reverend Mother say? And she says, did you have to look for your life? I just love that.
Yeah.
We watched it together, didn't we, Mum? You showed me that movie. And yeah. I'm going to give it a 9. I think it really holds up. I think it's a wonderful movie.
It does hold up. What about you, Annie Dawn?
Yeah, I'll give it a 10. I love
10.
it. I've just read Julie Andrews' life, her book called Home.
Yeah.
And she didn't have a easy life. Yeah, I cried through some of it. And for her to make that film, wonderful.
Solid film.
Yeah, I love the movie. I love the children, and she was lovely with the children. And yes. The girls and I have watched it many, many times, and I could watch it again.
My wife loves it. My wife would definitely give it a 10. We went to Salzburg last Christmas and went to all the places where it's filmed and went to all the sites where they sing the songs and that. And now when we watch it again, it's so much fun going, oh, we stood right there and we went there and we did that. I've got a new level of appreciation now. I've got a little boy who loves music and songs, and we always put Sound of Music songs on the TV. And he loves watching the puppet show, The Lonely Goat Herd, and he loves watching Do Re Mi and favourite things. So many iconic songs. So many. It's still great to watch. It would be mean of me to give it too low a score just to bring the average down, because I think it's getting such a high score. But The Sound of Music, it's an 8 for me.
It's like the quintessential Your Story, I think, isn't it, Mum? This idea of going in and taking care of these children who don't have a mum and.
Yeah, beautiful.
What about a mark out of 10 for olives to eat?
Olives to eat?
I'm not a big fan of olives, to be honest. I know they add some class to a salad, but I often leave them. If they're on their own on the table, if we're served up some olives, I'll eat a couple of olives. That's lovely. Bit of, with a wine or whatever we're having. But I have to say, if they're part of something else, I tend to. I'm just indifferent. When I taste one, I go, "Well, that's a nice strong taste," but I don't do a lot with them.
What are you going to give it?
I think they're passengers, really, in life, and I'm going to give them 4.
I'm going to go very low for olives. I actively dislike them. I think people who say they like them, I have problems believing, including my wife, who says she likes olives and always will order olives at the restaurant, and they'll bring out a little plate of olives as a starter, and she'll only ever eat one, and the rest get taken back. So
yeah.
even though she says she likes them, I don't believe her. I can't stand them. I hate them on a pizza. I hate them in anything. And I'm not gonna give them 0 because I acknowledge that my taste is unique to me, and they have a right to exist and be eaten by others. But I'm going to give them 1.5.
What about you, Mum?
Nah, I hate them.
Yeah.
Do you really?
Yes, people have tried to get me to eat them, and you find them in a salad, and if I'm out and they're in the salad, I just leave them there and get every part. No, I just find them an unnecessary fruit. No, I don't like olives.
Unnecessary.
I didn't grow up with them, so I didn't have to eat them, and I still don't have to eat them. I don't like them. No.
What do you get? What score?
Well, what do you give it? 1, I suppose.
Yeah.
I feel like we're losing the Italian community.
I will say, though, that my godmother was named Olive, and she was the most wonderful woman ever. So for that reason, I feel a little bit guilty.
Mm-hmm.
So sorry, Olive, but I don't like the food. I'm not marking my godmother.
I like the word olive. I like the way it looks. I had a novel that was called Olive Kitteridge. I like the way it looks. So that's
All right. We're nearly there. A mark out of 10 for the Murray River, the River Murray, Australia's longest river.
Oh, look, the Murray is so important to the southeastern part of Australia, and I learned to drive at the Murray mouth on the sand from a friend of mine. I've done some wakeboarding on the Murray. It's really important for all sorts of ways. It's the way that Victoria, my home state, is shaped. Like the Murray actually creates the sort of diagonal shape of the state. It's the border.
Because it forms a lot of the border between New South Wales and Victoria.
Yeah, so that is a familiar shape to me that I really like.
Yeah.
So there are all these reasons on there, but I don't feel an affection. People feel a strong affection for the river. I like to know that the Murray's going well, the water's coming down, fresh water's coming down. That's really important for all sorts of reasons. So, but it's always brown as well, though. It's not as beautiful as other. But that's, I guess, quintessentially Australian. I don't really know how I feel about the Murray. I have to say it's really important, but I don't feel a heartburst for it. So I will say, I'll say 5. Bit of a cheat halfway through.
Do you have any feelings about the River Murray, Auntie Dawn?
Well, I love watching those boats going down. Those holiday boats going down the Murray, and I guess when we've been on holidays as a family years ago, we'd have the car and caravan, and many times we went on, we crossed the Murray on a ferry. Yeah, it's a good river, and I'm used to hearing.
As far as rivers go.
About it. You hear a lot about the Murray mouth and all that. Yeah.
So what are you going to give it?
Yeah, well, I suppose I should give it a high because, it's necessary, isn't it? I mean, the water coming down. Yeah, probably a 7.
7?
But that's probably because I'm not hadn't taken a lot of interest in it, but it's essential.
Do you feel after this episode you will take more interest in it, Mum? Like, will you read books about the Murray River? Or?
Oh, no, I don't read books about the Murray.
I had a book. I grew up with a book about the Murray River. I loved it. I have my feelings of the Murray River is very much shaped by my childhood because we went on holidays there to the Coorong and to other places along the River Murray. And it's a mixture of wonder because to me it was like the big river. I now, I think differently about it now because it's quite a small river in the scheme of things. But for me, it was like a big mysterious river. I was a bit scared of it. I was scared I would drown in it. but I was also like a little bit in awe of it and fascinated by it. I was fascinated by the geography and the geography of it. The fact it formed a border between two states was amazing to me.
Yeah.
And I've still got a little bit of that latent childhood wonder about the river in me, although I'm less impressed by it now. So I'm also gonna give it a 7.
After whom was it named? Who was Murray? Do you know?
I don't know. I don't think it was Murray from the Wiggles. I don't know. No, I don't.
It would have been that. It would have been in that book you had as a kid.
It definitely would have been. Yeah.
It was Michael Hutchence, right? Here's a link to pop music. Michael Hutchence, the former lead singer of the band In Excess, that was his pseudonym for checking into a hotel, Murray River. There you go.
Oh.
Interesting fact. All right, I want to mark out of 10 for water, H2O.
Oh, it's all right. Mum, what about like water compared to hankies? Like, are you a bigger fan of hankies than you are of water?
No, I think perhaps I went a bit high with hankies, but no, with water.
Bit of hanky regret here.
If you live in New Guinea for a while, you come to appreciate beautiful, clear, crystal cold water.
Yeah.
So probably I'd give water 12. Yeah.
You can't give water a 12.
You can't. There's no 12.
Well, there's
Mum.
no 12.
No.
Well, bring down hankies to 8. But water, 10 out of 10.
10 out of 10. I can't bring hankies down. You've locked in the hankies.
Yeah.
Tim?
Wow.
I love water. I love splashing water on my face.
Yeah.
Love swimming in the water, salt water, fresh water. I love drinking water. I love sparkling water.
Yeah.
I like a shower. I'll sometimes have like
Showers
a
under the
super
water.
quick, really super quick shower a couple of times a day in summer or something. I love it. Oh, yeah, no, water's good.
Yeah.
It's in coffee. It's an essential ingredient in coffee.
It's an
profoundly
essential
important.
ingredient in us. We're mostly made of water, humans.
Indeed, yes.
We're just sacks of water, really.
Yes. Very
What
important.
negatives? Mama, can you think of any negatives from water?
You can drown in it.
Well, that's true. Yes, you could have a bad coffee.
People that are having floods up north,
Yes,
well, I guess
flooding.
they wouldn't give it very high, would they?
Yeah.
No, I feel it's an 8.
An 8. I'm going to give water an 8.5 because I love showers, I love the essentialness of it, but so many other things I love, like waterfalls and rivers and deep oceans and all these some of the coolest stuff involves water. So not only is it like important and wholesome and essential, it's also dramatic. It can carve canyons. It can fall in a massive storm and things. Water is a good all-rounder. You've got to give it high, 8.5.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the last one on the list, guys. The last thing I want you to give a mark out of 10 to. Christmas.
I love Christmas.
Do you?
Yeah.
Yes, I do.
I'll go first. I like Christmas. Christmas Day is often a bit of a disappointment for me, partly because of just the way my life has been structured. I used to work on Christmas Day a lot. My wife works on Christmas Day a lot. And because my family's, quite spread out, it's never been a massive, massive only day to see the family thing. I have very fond childhood memories of Christmas. It's hard not to get swept away by Christmas films and Christmas decorations and Christmas lights. There is a lot of faff around Christmas, though, a lot of hassle, present buying. Sometimes there are, family things. So I'm not going to give it full marks. I'm going to give Christmas in its entirety, when you take all the wonder and loveliness of it that I love, but also the downside of it, 7.4.
Mum is so perplexed
Tim,
by your response.
let's have you next.
All right, look. I love the feelings I get from and around Christmas. When it's not Christmas, it feels like it's coming too soon and it feels like, oh, what's all that? But when you're there, because Christmas is, I like the fact that we're all in it together and it's a bonding thing. It's a connecting thing. I like the spirit in the room. I also work at Christmas and I love that because obviously Christmas comes out of the story of Jesus. And so that is, I think that's obviously at the heart of everything that's important. And so the connecting factor of it. I do like Christmas carols. Oh, Holy Night is my favourite Christmas carol. Yeah, so there's that. It sort of gets me, even the sort of soppy bits, I guess, in the end. But I do see how it's leveraged for commercial ends that are not always good. And I know that we've already talked about the blue Christmas factor, that for some people it actually exacerbates their loneliness. But the heart of Christmas is to do the opposite of that where we can. Oh, look, I'm going to give Christmas an 8.9.
Okay. Your last, Mrs. Hein. What do you think of Christmas?
Well, I can remember when I was a little girl and I first heard the story of the birth of Jesus. And that's Christmas to me. And we sang Away in a Manger. That's Christmas to me. I love to go to church and hear about that and read in the Bible about it. My parents, used to do the Santa thing. But, I love the idea of families getting together. I know it's not about presents and I know it's not about decorations, but I enjoy all that. I've got my little home packed out with decorations of Christmas and a Christmas tree and lights and all on the balcony. There's lights there. I'm looking out now and the lights are shining,
Yeah.
And the family church getting together and sharing cards and saying, how much we appreciate each other. Yeah, I know it's commercialised. I see people rushing in to get all this, spending money on Christmas. But, I just love Christmas.
What are you going to give it out of 10?
I think I'll have to, because of the true story, I'll give it a 10 because, we remember why God sent Jesus as a little baby, and that's the basics of my faith in God. Yeah. And so I have to give it a 10 out of 10 because of that, what he did for me.
Can't argue with that. That brings us to the end of our scores. Oh, let's start with the bottom 5, hey? The bottom 5.
Bottom 5, Mum. So we're adding up all our scores. Do you understand? Yep.
The bottom 5. This is when you average our scores together. The bottom 5. At the very bottom of the list was olives, and then emus, glazed ginger, carrots, and Harry Potter. And at the top... Our top 5 were The Sound of Music was number 1.
Oh, wow.
Followed by horses, water, Christmas, and toothpaste.
Toothpaste?
Toothpaste did well, didn't it?
It did do well.
Got a lot out of having a nice taste and being useful. Could take you a long way.
Yeah.
Mrs. Hein, thank you so much for sharing your scores with us. This was so much fun.
Oh, you're welcome, Brady. I really enjoyed it. It's been great.
Look, that brings us to the end of the show. I wish you a very Merry Christmas. For those of you who support the podcast on Patreon, we've actually got some requests and questions for Mrs. Hein, and we'll do that in our special request room. So go to the Patreon page and see all the links in the usual places if you want to hear a few more pearls of wisdom from the great woman herself. But for the rest of you, thank you very much for listening. Oh, and I'll put something on the website where you can look at all the scores out of 10 for this episode and previous episodes, and there's a big monster spreadsheet of everything. So go and have a look. But Mrs. Hein, you want to come back with me and Tim to the request room now?
Wow, that sounds great.
All right.
Mum, what would then? a quick score? What would you give Brady out of 10? Remembering he doesn't eat veggies, what would you give him out of 10?
I've always loved Brady for many years, and great friend, and I love the way he appreciates me. He just loves my ginger cake, and I just want to say thank you, Brady. It's just a joy to come on the podcast and share with you, and I appreciate you asking me. And have a wonderful, wonderful Christmas.
Come on, Mum, lock it in. Out of 10, what does Brady get?
10 out of 10.
What? Even not for... He didn't eat all your veggies, remember?
Yeah.
You only gave Tim a 7.
When did I give Tim a 7?
Come,
interrupting your podcast.
come in. Look who it is.
Oh, Mum, look at this.
Ah,
It's Auntie Dawn.
Say bye-bye, Daddy.
Bye-bye. And say bye to Tim and Auntie Dawn.
Bye-bye.
yeah.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Come on, we're going downstairs.
Okay, mate.
Good to see that mullet still growing. That's fantastic.